Welcome back to AgriVista, where we explore topics in agriculture. I'm Joshua Tigas. We'll take a look at what the Albert City Threshermen is all about, showcasing antiques. We've already explored threshing machines and steam-driven tractors, but the antiques did not end here. A variation of tractors and cars lets some reminisce, while others simply learn about history. Let's take a glimpse at what's coming up.
And I say it was my grandpa's fault because I can't hear.
It's like a lot of things, you want to have a little pride in what you do.
That gets them sort of tuned up to, hey, let's do this again, you know.
Tractor was purchased January of
You just got to come out here to see it.
All of this and more coming up on AgriVista. While the Albert City Threshermen showcases many featured aspects of agriculture, collectors are encouraged to bring their pride and joy. From cars to the very first tractors companies produced, there is no question reminiscing occurs as people browse the show. But with agriculture making great technological advancements, why even keep equipment of the past? Few things make farmers or others involved in the agriculture industry slow down from the hustle and bustle their field demands. But when an antique rolls by, you can't help but admire it for a few moments. Whether a car or tractor, the Albert City Threshermen has no shortage of these antiques.
You know, a lot of people come here and they find a tractor or a car or something that their grandpa had. They remember going to grandpa and grandma's farm as a child, and maybe they rode on that tractor, or maybe they drove that tractor or whatever.
Without a doubt, walking around shows like this brings memories back to the surface.
My grandpa had a Fortson, an old Fortson, and I blame him for my hearing loss because that Fortson, it ground and howled and ground and howled, and I'd ride with him when I was a real young kid. That's probably one of my first experiences on a tractor, and I say it was my grandpa's fault because I can't hear.
It's these early experiences on the farm with what is now considered antique equipment that plants a seed of interest in those who purchase and restore these old cars and tractors.
I grew up on these tractors, and now they're old, you know, 50, 60, 70 years old. And it's sort of a thing that you want to take these tractors out and work them to see if you can still make it from one end of the field to the other.
In order to ensure these quite literal antique machines are still capable of running as they did in their glory days, many hours are spent in the shop restoring them to how they looked off the assembly line. From struggling to even locate parts to being nitpicky about minor paint details, it goes without saying a great level of craftsmanship goes into maintaining memories of the past.
It's like a lot of things, you want to have a little pride in what you do or what you own, and so I chose to fix it up.
But shows that allow collectors to display their pride and joy brings much more than simply standing in awe at how life used to be. It's an educational opportunity about tractors, but also people's experiences.
You get to meet a lot of nice people. It's the people behind these antique tractors just as much as the tractors. There's so many variations of different things, and at these shows you'll see stuff that you've never seen before, and that's the unique part about these kind of shows.
While old in nature, these shows prove antique cars and tractors are young in their soul, allowing old memories to surface while creating new ones for the younger generation. The camaraderie built in a community that shares the love for collecting antiques brings new elements of history to light to remind us that we must explore the past to understand the present and propel ourselves into the future. I'm now privileged to be joined by Charlie Widlin, a member of the National Allis-Chalmers Club who has quite a collection of his own. So Charlie, let's start there. How did you first get into collecting all these antiques?
Well, I started back in the mid-70s. I told my wife in the mid-70s, as a farmer, we don't have an IRA for retirement. So my idea for retirement began with collecting tractors and cars, mostly tractors. That was really my retirement fund, and that's how we got started.
Yeah. Now, I've heard too, you're in the process of building even a museum to showcase all this stuff that you have, right?
Yeah, we've originally had a museum that had a lot of things from Allis-Chalmers, like mini bikes, refrigerators, chainsaws, golf carts, a lot of things that Allis-Chalmers actually made. We are now building a old-time dealership to add on to our museum. So we're excited about that.
That sounds incredible, definitely. Now, you mentioned the Allis-Chalmers. So is that primarily what you collect?
That's primarily what I collect. The Allis-Chalmers has always sort of been deep in my heart. So that's the fun part for it. You know, and I still use them, and that's the fun part.
Yeah, for sure. Well, this upcoming year for the Threshermens would be a big year for you then, since the Allis-Chalmers is the featured tractor there. So are you doing anything to kind of get prepared for that?
We've actually been working on that several years now. You've got to work the system to try to get special things at the show. And I've got quite a few things sort of lined up tentatively. You know, hopefully everything comes out. But we're excited about going out in the field, being able to work in the field out there at Threshermen. We've got a lot of different things coming to the show, so I'm really excited about it, yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be something for sure that people are going to want to go out there to see and
Yes.
stuff, all that special things out there. But let's take a step back here with restoring these antiques. So before they even go to shows, maybe sometimes a lot of work has to be done to even get them up and running again. So kind of what's the process all entail of making sure of, or even going through restoring some of these antiques?
A lot of times, if the antique looks really good, you know, it's really good to see just a plain antique tractor in its plain clothes. And a lot of people like to see that. You know, not everybody likes to see the shine part of it. And, you know, to put a paint job on it, you got to go through seals and make sure the grease and stuff don't leak out on your paints, and make sure you get your right paints in and things like that. So if you got a real good tractor that's, you know, non-restorable, I'm going to say, keep it that way.
Yeah, yep, for sure. Now, if I understand right too, you do a lot of restoring on your own with your own equipment and stuff. So with that, what's the most challenging part about going through restoring an old tractor?
Well, a lot of times when you're going through an old tractor, in the older ones, it's just getting the parts for them. And that's getting to be a big thing anymore, because Allis-Chalmers got bought out in 1985. So there's been a lot of history lost, you know, all the way through. And to get parts sometimes it can be very challenging. Sometimes for tin work and different things, starters, getting pieces for carburetors and things like that, gears and things like that get to be a big challenge.
Yeah, I could definitely see that, you know, especially since they, like you mentioned, bought out in 85, I think you said.
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, that would be a big challenge. But then going to these shows, once everything's all fixed up, going to these shows and stuff, meeting all these people, how rewarding is it to hear people come up to you with all these stories they have about, oh, maybe I grew up on this tractor, or stuff like that?
Yeah, you know, right now, when there's different stages of people. And this stage of people over here started out maybe with WCs or WDs. Grandpa had this. Then you go into the D series of the Allis-Chalmers. Well, Grandpa or Dad bought a new one of these in 1960 or so. And then over here you get the next person over here that we're into the 190s or D21s or 220s. So it's sort of interesting to see the different stages of people that's, you know, that's gone through it.
Yeah, for sure. And you, like you mentioned with those different stages, I'm sure you're sharing stories with one while you're telling stories to the other to educate them about that. So now with the younger generations coming out and stuff, all the little kids and stuff, how are you kind of getting involved with them, kind of telling them stories, showing them what life used to be like?
That's what we got to do, is get the young people involved. The young people, they, you know, get them up on the tractor, explain things to them, maybe give them a ride, let them drive. That gets them sort of tuned up to, hey, let's do this again, you know. So sometimes it's even the garden tractor end of it that, you know, maybe they're small enough, I'd like to run this garden tractor, you know. So we got to keep them young people involved too, to keep this thing continue going.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I remember growing up and stuff, it was always a special occasion or a special treat whenever my grandpa would take me out to the barn or my uncle would take me out there, pull out the old John Deere A and B and go around the section with them. So it definitely does create those memories, and there's just something special about sitting on one of those old tractors, isn't there?
Yes, there is. Yeah, for me, there's a lot of memories, you know, and as the younger people, I hope they have as many good memories as I have.
Yeah, for sure. Well, before you go, we do have a viewer that actually sent in a question here. So they're wondering, with your extensive collection that you have, what is your most prized possession?
That's a hard question. There's a lot of things in our collection that I really like. Probably one of them is a 220 front wheel assist. They've only made something less than 100 of them. The one I end up with 2 of them. They came out of Washington State. They've always been within each other, within a mile of each other. I guess that 220 is probably one of them that's really sort of special to me. We have a granddaughter that has went to shows with us since she could walk. She was 16 years old, and one night we were in a plowing team with the 220, and I was the end of the plowing team. And that night at supper, she says, "Grandpa," she says, "I'm 16 years old and I don't know how to plow." And I said, "Tomorrow we'll take care of that." So she ended up where the next morning we showed her how to plow, and I put her in the plowing team the next day. I wasn't nowhere around. I said, "You're on your own." So that tractor's a special tractor to me just because of that.
Yeah.
That's probably my favorite one.
Yeah, for sure. It all comes back to the stories that are associated with either a specific tractor, a specific type of tractor, or even a company that made them and everything. So for sure, definitely. So.
She ended up, I give her a bad time about that tractor a little bit. One of the reasons is when she came down through the field with that tractor plowing with a 7/16 plow, on-land hitch plow, people were taking pictures all over the place, see? Well, if I run that day before, I didn't get my picture taken. You know? So
Yeah.
I always give her a bad time about that too.
Yeah.
But she made a lot of front page publications with that tractor.
I'm sure, yeah. Well,
That's special.
Charlie, we greatly appreciate you taking the time to be here with us today. Make sure to make your way out to the Albert City Threshermen and Collectors Show August 11th to the 13th and see the variety of antiques on display, including the featured Allis-Chalmers. Tune in next time when we continue our deep dive by looking at a coreless steam engine. I'm Joshua Tigas, and you've been watching the special Albert City Threshermen Series on AgriVista, where we explore the past to understand the present and excel into the future.